Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today and would like to thank you, all of you, for being here and joining this masterclass about our product, DemandSens. That is a real pleasure for my team and I to share with you what we have designed and developed with and for the book industry in order to have an impact in their operation. Before getting into the crux of this presentation, I would like to introduce you quickly your speakers for this session. I'm therefore very pleased to introduce and to welcome Maha Masabi, who is leading the data science R&D effort for DemandSens, Marvin Zim, driving our business development activities, and I'm Mark Ispar, partner at BearingPoint in charge of our data and AI-driven software portfolio. Maybe a few words about BearingPoint for those who might not already know us. We're basically a management consulting firm with European roots and a global reach worldwide, with about 5,000 people based in more than 24 countries. But we are more than this. We are also a software company embodied by a specific business unit named Product, regrouping something like 500 people. In that perspective, we design, we develop, and leverage leading technologies in our product. But this is not only a question about delivering a piece of software. We also support, of course, and maintain those products to provide to our client always up and running solution. As an agenda, we propose you to have first a quick introduction about book forecasting challenges. Then we will share with you what you would need to know about DemandSens. Maha will then take the lead to showcase DemandSens in order to let you have a flavor about the product user experience and user interface. Finally, we will introduce some insight about our plan for the future and let you ask any question you may have during the Q&A session. Marvin, the floor is yours.
So thank you very much, Mark. So now then let's start with the book forecasting challenge and in which direction it develops. So typically, which you can see on the next slide also is that we at BearingPoint think that future can be predicted and also adapted. So typically, as we are working in BearingPoint as a typically IT consulting company, we see in many different areas that we have to work morely with the topic of AI. And when we speak with book publishers or also publishers in other directions, so what mainly the customers say are that typically they trust in their sales force on the ground. So that's completely all right in that scenario. Other customers also tell us that, for example, they use Excel for sales forecasting. So that's also completely fine with that scenario, is that they use Excel for getting a sales forecast and work in that direction a little bit more common. And the third scenario is that they have their self-developed tool. However, what they have all in common is they all want to recognize the buying behavior before the customers buy. So what we at BearingPoint know is that many industries are working now with the topic of AI, and also the publishing industry is or wants to go into this direction. And therefore, we as BearingPoint develop with many partners and friends the solution DemandSens Books for having an AI-driven solution for getting more accurate and more precise sales forecasting when it comes to looking into the future, when it comes to make a forecast in that scenario. And therefore, I would now hand over to Mark to give a foreword about this topic.
Yes, thank you very much, Marvin. So let's back to DemandSens. What is the DemandSens raison d'être? I mean, what is the core value proposition? At the end of the day, DemandSens is aiming at making sure that the right books will be available in the right quantity, in the right place, and at the right time. To be a little bit more concrete, what would you expect from DemandSens? What can DemandSens do for you? First, DemandSens helps set up the right targets and allocate them. Here, the question is about defining the most relevant sales objectives per book, per point of sales, for any given sales representatives. For that purpose, DemandSens is proposing an extensive set of forecasting methods that you can easily configure. You can then, of course, check, adjust, simulate different options before sending those objectives to the sales rep on the ground. Secondly, DemandSens will support you in monitoring closely how your prospection effort is progressing thanks to the pre-orders constantly ingested into DemandSens. You have therefore continuously an up-to-date overview about the overall progress, but also the ability to dig into details and investigate what's going on any given book in a specific distribution network. DemandSens also supports the decision-making process by computing the optimal print run quantities. That can be done both in the very early stages of a new book or later once the prospection is providing market feedbacks. In addition to this, we are currently implementing a new module dealing with the budget planning, as we know this is a huge pain point for most of distributors and publishers, and that will be released in the upcoming weeks. We are regularly asked where data science and AI are coming into play within DemandSens. So here you have an overview about the key features that are concretely leveraging such capabilities. Of course, and as just mentioned, we are using state-of-the-art in terms of data science regarding the allocation, meaning the computing the optimal allocation keys store by store, EAN by EAN. But we have also designed and embedded into the product a lookalike recommendation engine, meaning identifying and suggesting the most similar book titles across the portfolio. And that is very critical when the question is all about predicting the potential of a new book. And we have also embedded, as part of the prospection trends features, but also the print run forecasting on replenishment engines, state-of-the-art in terms of forecasting and regressing methods. In terms of business benefit, what could you expect from a solutions like DemandSens? First of all, enhancing the productivity by robotizing and speeding up the target sales definitions and the allocation process, but also building trust in forecast for publishers and also the sales reps, avoiding them to recompute on their own what would be possibly the most relevant objectives. Secondly, you can concretely expect from this solution to increase the direct margin by lowering the distributed quantities and limiting the shortages, but also by reducing the cost to operate and raw material acquisition. Last but not least, DemandSens helps contribute to the CSR policy by reducing naturally the impact on the resources. Before getting into the demo, just wanted to share with you that DemandSens is already at scale. With a portfolio from more than 160 book publishers, that is standing for more than 10,000 new books per year, delivered in more than 25,000 point of sales in 12 countries, and managed by roughly 60 end users. As you can see, current publishers are pretty much Franco-French, but we are actually looking forward across the boundaries and basically try to work with you. Maha, I'll let you go through the demo.
So, hello everyone. Before starting the demo, let me say that all the data manipulated here was anonymized. So, as already said, DemandSens facilitates and accelerates the novelties distribution process through its various rich and AI-based modules, starting from the sales forecasting, the setting of the target quantity, its allocation, to the prospection and trend follow-up. So, in DemandSens, the novelties program is structured per cycle. Each cycle covers a sales period. It could go from 2 to 3 months or any sales period that you can configure. I'll click on the first cycle of 2023, and here I can consult all the novelties released during January and February. of 2023. So all relevant information is here displayed. The ID, the EAN, the author, the price, release date, comments, the editorial classification, the collection and publisher, the series if it exists. Then we'll find the target quantities in total and per market. You can also configure your own markets. Here I have configured France, Belgium, Swiss, and Quebec. Then on the right part of the screen, we will have the information of the lookalikes. Please note that there are a tremendous choice of columns available, so information related to the products that you can display. I have configured my view to display only these columns, but note that you can configure your own view, choosing the columns to display and their orders and save the configuration. Also, all our grids are dotted with filters, quick filters, enabling to refine the search to work on a specific publisher or a specific release period or a specific theme. So let me back to the lookalike columns. DemandSens offers you the possibility to choose up to 3 lookalikes, specific ones, through this module. So you click on the 3 dots, and here displayed all the items already released in the few on the last years, and you can refine your search. You can select your own lookalike. For instance, select the author that you select the item written by the same author or the same or attached to the same collection. I'll be working on a novelty called Fantastic Animals, and I'll be selecting a lookalike for it. So either I will select an author, a lookalike, as I said, written by the same author or attached to the same publisher collection, or use our recommendation algorithm. So our recommendation algorithm, once it is activated, it will sort the table according to a proximity score. That score is computed depending on the information of the items, mainly the resume, the keywords, the editorial classification, and we display also the release, the sold quantities of this lookalike. So as you see, since I'm working on Fantastic Animals, the most recommended one is Fantastic Creatures, and the Zoo Parks Extraordinary Animals, and etc. I'll be selecting the first one, and once I select on it, I will access to its historical sheet, meaning more details on the sales of this lookalike. So I will have a look on the delivered quantities, the returned quantities, and the net sales since the release of that product. The first 3 months, the first 6 months, and the first year, and up-to-date data, and deduce through its return rate, its net sales, if it is a relevant lookalike or not. I will also have these quantities in total, but also per market. And inside each market, we will find 2 levels of networks. So the networks are grouping of clients according to their size, to their specificities. We can find, for instance, the general bookstores, the specific bookstores, and inside the specific bookstores, we can find the youth libraries, the comics libraries, etc. You can also configure your own network levels. So I'm convinced with this lookalike product, I can save it. If not, I can change it and come back to the sheet where I can select all the historical products. Then I'll be setting my target quantity. For Fantastic Animals, I will set 5,000 copies and click on Market Allocation. So those 5,000 copies will be distributed as a first step into the 4 markets. I will see a target quantity in France, Belgium, Swiss, and Quebec. Normally it takes a few seconds, and I will see the result of the distribution. I forgot to say that there is also a comments zone when you can type freely during meetings with editors, for instance, some relevant information related to the product. And the result of the allocation is ready. You have, for instance, 4,121 copies in the French market and other quantities in the other markets. I can adjust the quantities per market, or I can keep them as the result of the allocation and launch the level 2 allocation. In this step, I will get those quantities per market distributed and allocated to each network. To get the details, I can click on the product and see my 5,000 copies distributed not only per market, but per network level 1 and level 2. So my general bookstores, level 1, I have 505 copies. For the level 2, I will have only 85. I can adjust those quantities through the manual input column to fix the final target launch quantity. On the right part of the screen, you will find the lookalike information, meaning the return rate, the launch quantity, the net sales, so some relevant quantities to say that my result of allocation is good or not, and adjust if needed. We propose several rules of allocation, so you can change easily your allocation rule and relaunch the computation, and in a few seconds you will get the result. It's already computed, and now I have 606 for my general libraries. We also gave the allocation result, but according to the lookalike information, so the fantastic creatures. If I'm okay with this result of allocation and no manual inputs, I can go back to the previous view and continue on working on the other novelties. You can select one editor and launch the computation on several products. It's easy and quick. If everything is okay, you can also export the result of the allocation into an Excel file and import also the target quantities. Once the pre-allocation is done, you can go to the next step, which is the allocation, the point of sales allocation. I will come back to the same product. It's another grid displaying also some information of the item, the rules used for the pre-allocation and the point of sales allocation, and then the fixed target quantities per market prepared in the previous step. So back to my same product. I will click on the details and I will have the result of the allocation, not only on the market, network 1 and network 2, but here also the client level. So for each client, for each point of sales, I will have a quantity distributed, fixed 12 copies, for instance, for this library in Saint-Étienne, France. Again, through this screen, you can modify easily the allocation rule, modify also easily the lookalike, add some potentially other lookalikes, and relaunch the calculation. I will get in a few seconds your results. So once that the quantities are allocated per market, per network, and then per point of sales, you can send the results to the agent stations, so that they can start their visits and propose those quantities set to their libraries and collect pre-orders. Once the pre-orders are collected, we can go to the prospection view and follow the trend of the collected pre-orders and the advancement of the visits. So the pre-orders are either collected through our ETLs on a daily basis in an automatic way, or key account managers could load through this page directly on some specific brands Excel files containing the pre-orders. So the CAM orders and the pre-orders collected collected by the agents are took into account to refresh the prospection stats. statistics. And here we offer a summarized view and a detailed view. In the summarized view, we will have some relevant KPIs to follow the distribution. So the point of sales distribution, which is the percentage of the visits, the volume distribution, which is the target quantity on the visited clients, and finally the number of key account manager orders loaded. Again, per market, per network, level 1 and level 2. More interesting is the detailed view. Here, back again to the same cycle that I'm working on, I will consult all my products, all the novelties released during the first cycle of 2023. Again, their information, the target quantity fixed in the pre-allocation and allocation modules. I will see here the loaded order cams, the orders pre-collected by the agents, and deduce the trend. So the trend obeys two different rules. It's also configurable per network. For some networks, we will prioritize the key account manager orders. For other networks, we'll prioritize the point of sales orders. We'll either get the sum or do some extrapolation on the non-visited clients. Or we can have also hybrid methods, including the key account manager orders and the point of sales orders. So these stats are refreshed each day when a new order is integrated to Nitro. So we'll compare then the trend to the initial target quantity through this percentage and say, yes, we have set the target that we have fixed initially or not. Again, we will have a view per market, per network level 1 and network level 2. And once I click on the product, I will have also a point of sales view. So very detailed one. And again, here, all the grids are configurable. You can choose a lot of columns to be displayed to help you follow the trend on some specific networks or specific typology of products. And the final module is the weekly prospection. Here it's to keep track of the weekly trend. If I click on the same cycle, we'll have we will save the trend week per week, and through this screen you can follow its evolution week per week. Unfortunately, we won't have the time today to deal with the administration modules, but keep in mind that we have also some administration module to configure and set some default rules to facilitate the daily task of the users. So here we have a page to show all the networks with their trend calculation method, whether if there are some hypermarkets or not. We have also a customer tool to display all the clients and their networks, also their weight inside their networks. We have also a point of sales allocation rule to set a default pre-allocation and point of sales allocation rule per each publisher and or division and or collection that you can eventually modify on a product level. Then the runs management page to organize the visits of the agents, and Salesforce mapping, again, to organize the visits, to say who will present that novelty to which client. All of these pages are useful to configure default rules and to set some rules to facilitate the daily tasks for each cycle's preparation. That was all for the demo. I will go back to the presentation now.
Well, thank you very much, Mahe, for this demo. I hope you enjoy it, and of course, we would be delighted to set up any kind of time slot to get into more details and address any kind of question you may have. As you can see, the product is quite rich. and very easily configurable. So there could be scenarios where the level of configuration would not necessarily be very complex, but as we all know, the book distribution needs also to cope with some kind of complexity, dealing with some market specificities. So the product has been designed with the distributors exactly to address specifically those kind of issues. So let's get back to the presentation. We have presented the product itself and its core value proposition. You have seen the overall user experience and interface. We thought also it would be quite interesting to share with you some insight about our plan for the future. So here you can see the upcoming features or modules that will enrich even more the value proposition of DemandSens. Typically, we are investigating social network data enrichment for better anticipation and trends detection. We are optimizing the forecast engine for print run and replenishment purpose. As mentioned previously, we're also designing a specific budget planning module, but also providing the end users with better seasonality handling or even advanced customer management features. As an illustration, regarding typically the print run decision-making process, you can see here a mock-up that we are currently implementing that has been designed with a bunch of publishers precisely looking for additional features and modules to help specifically this process. And what you can see here is a sample of specific page, which we have called a sandbox for simulation purpose. And within this page, typically the publisher get access to, let's say, the current state in terms of master data, and it can play with some influential variables, such as typically the price range, the type, the format. It can also provide some additional information or interfere with what the engine would have identified automatically in terms of lookalike. And then at the end, it can simulate and ask the machine to provide an estimate about what would be the sales estimate volume, but also the print quantity that would be required typically to cover the sales over the first 6 or 12 months. Marvin, you would like to share some additional insight about other features, specifically the ones regarding the social network?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So what we hear now is mainly what you can do with sales forecasting and also with AI-driven sales.
Marvin? Okay.
Yeah, with AI-driven sales forecasting. And what we want to do now in the future is, so we now concentrated the whole time on the past. So we were looking on past data, historical data in that sense, and calculated forecasts with this data front in that case. So what we now want to focus a little bit more in the future is the definite customer needs, because we definitely know what the customer needs. So because we have access to social media data, we can look on social media platforms like TikTok or Instagram. You can see on BookTalk many different areas or trend scenarios, and you could work with this data. And that's for us a future scenario. And when you go a little bit on the next slide, Mark. Yeah, so because if you're not doing it and you not look at what the customer needs, or you analyze the customer, why he is buying or she is buying the book he is now buying in the store, you would have opportunity costs, because you could have wins in that case with doing it in a sales forecasting scenario. And the path in that case would be on this slide. So for us, social media is the point where you have to get a little bit more into it. So with features like social listening or social sentiment in combination with sales forecasting, you can go directly, not only combining it with historical data, but also enhance it with the future data, with the present data, and get a more precise forecast in that scenario. And when we go on the next one, you will have on the left side a short GIF in that sense from a book, Zurück ins Leben geliebt. And you can see there what the views on TikTok are depending on how many books are sold. So if you know directly what's the trend of the book, so when you know directly, okay, many views are going into this, you can invest more into many campaigns, or you can make more print runs to be more adapted onto this scenario and have more sales volumes in that case. And that's for us worth to look onto this direction. And when you go on the next one, Mark, we say it would be a whole forecast revolution in case of social data enrichment. So to look a little bit more in this direction and adapt it when it comes to sales forecasting scenario. And on the next slide, we have like mock-up prepared for this scenario where we have a reprint detection alerting system. So what you can see here now is on the middle part that you have like a historical sales wrap up where you can see directly where the sales are going into. Also, you would have a social network score. So every time, for example, a trend is detected by the system, you would have a higher social network score, which is depending on the volumes you would need on the specific store or as a target quantity. Also, you could see as the inventory KPIs, so you can see directly per point of sale, what is the inventory right now into the store? And do I have to start a new print run, which is combined with the last step on the right, whether you have a yellow flag, for example, where you can see, okay, I have to make a new print run, or a green flag when you are completely, totally on the right side when it comes to your inventory. And for us, that's definitely a scenario we are thinking about and we are developing right now with many partners on this topic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marvin. Well, it looks like we come to the end of this presentation as we have prepared it. During the session, some of you already shared some specific question. I can see typically one of them dealing with the question of the data, their origin, what kind of data should we need to ingest, where are coming from the POS data. We can typically share with you a slide on this. What you can see here is let's say a simplified overview of the different source of data that in the standard scenario would feed and would be ingested in some way into DemandSens, but also coming out from DemandSens. You have naturally information attached to the product itself, the book. So this is what we call the PIM, the Product Information Management System, where we are getting access and feeding DemandSens with the master data related to the books. We are also getting access to the CRM and also that could be an ERP, that could be a BI system, a data warehouse, but we need to get access to the customer data and also all the historical sales transaction that has occurred over the past few years at the most granular level, meaning at the point of sales level, we need to understand what were the different flows of product, of books in and out over the time for every single book. We also need the customer data describing what type of data, where are the location, where are different type, and the way they are structured into the distribution network. And also, as mentioned during the presentation by Mai, regarding the prospection phase, when the question is about monitoring how of that goes, we are feeding constantly in a kind of real-time fashion every single pre-orders that are taken on the ground by the sales rep. So we need to get access and to ingest that. And before that, DemandSens would have fed the sales rep desktop with their own specific and very detailed granular objectives. So usually we have in both directions, data coming in and coming out. And at the end of the day, DemandSens will take care of handling all of this and computing the right information, scoring KPIs to drive in a better way the decision-making process. I can see also that some of you are raising some questions about forecast accuracy, level of criticality of the data quality. Of course, when the question is about forecasting something, then the question is not only to put the numbers, but is that number relevant enough, robust enough to work with it? So anytime our clients are considering moving forward with DemandSens, of course, they are challenging the solution, they are testing it and validating that the solution is providing a sufficient level, let's say, of robustness, of accuracy to work with and to reshape, to revamp their own internal processes. And then we can also consider different ways to measure that. When the question is about the allocation, it's very clear that with the help of the solution, the feedback that we had from the market, from the sales rep, from the team in charge of those activities, the relevancy, the quality of the objectives were way closer than the expectation and what they used to work with. When the question is about putting an overall number about the sales level for the upcoming weeks or month after the launch date, or proposing, suggesting the right level of printing quantity, then also here we can measure with a very, with a high level of accuracy, whether or not it makes sense. And we have, for the ones who are interested, please feel free to touch base. We could share with you typically what we have done and the way it has been measured with some publishers which have gone through this process. And very concretely, before implementing this feature, we can measure the ROI. We can say, based on the unit cost of a given book, considering the value generated by the sales of a given book, then we can very easily say that how the machine will help to reduce globally the volume, but also protecting the sales volume over the first, let's say, 4, 8, 12, or even 6 months of activity for a new book. And that can be measured over, let's say, a short period of time in the past. And we are using the machine and saying, what would you would have said for this given portfolio? And we compare to what has been concretely in reality observed. And we can say, very fact-based, we can say how accurate the machine has been, and effectively, if it has been capable to reduce the unsold volume, but also has been capable to protect the top line and not requiring to launch a reprint just few days after the launch date, which would be completely unacceptable. So I'm not sure that's relevant to say numbers here, but for some publisher, it has come from 500,000 to more than 1 million just over the first year in terms of ROI. So purely the bottom line generated by the accuracy regarding the print run decision, as an example. But again, we would be happy to get into more details, and feel free to touch base, and we could investigate that with you. A question, how your current customer using the data to set sales goals rep by rep? Is it working well? Yeah, this is just what I was mentioning. And that has been one of the major impact from the CEO of one of our clients, stating that he was completely afraid by the time spent by all the team on the ground, but also on the publisher side. He was in charge of the distribution, and both the publishers and the sales force on the ground were struggling with the numbers. And at the end of the day, everyone was recomputing its own objective, considering that its own viewpoint was closer to the reality, more taking into account, the local specificities. But at the end of the day, if everyone is making its own objective, the total sum of their objective is never making sense from the publisher perspective. And there is always big discrepancies. And with the help of DemandSens, it has been not only implementing a solution, but also driving the change management and reshape the overall process, redefine the role and responsibility, all of that driven by the digital solution that everyone can use from end to end of the value chain. And sharing the same set of data, sharing the same objectives, providing the right level of monitoring really help to align everyone on the same objectives. Just looking at if there are other questions, but they were more or less closer to the ones that we have just addressed. We have also a question, and of course we will do it. Could you be so kind and share the presentation? Yeah, via email. Yeah, of course we will do it. And there is no commitment on any side. I mean, we will share that with you, and of course, again, but I will never say that enough. But we will be pleased to comment it, and eventually get into more details or come back on the demo side. We thought it was not worth in this session to get into too much details about the product or the overall experience, but yeah, of course, we're going to share the presentation just after the meeting via mail. Well, I think we are almost done. Maybe it looks like we have been a little bit in advance, but I guess that most of you will consider this as a saving a little bit of their time. So if there is no specific question right now, I would like again to thank you, all of you, for assisting and spending your time with us today during this masterclass. We're going to be, of course, present during the FBM next week. So if you have any chance, please come to visit us. And yeah, we will be happy to continue this presentation and come back on any topic or specific concerns that you would like to share with us. Thank you very much, all of you, and hopefully talk to you next week in Frankfurt. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you, and bye-bye.